back to After the Midnight, everybody.
This week we're discussing track 4 off of Endless Summer, Jason, featuring Nikki Flores.
And speaking of Nikki Flores, she's actually a special guest on this episode. She's the co-writer of this song. This song started with Tim and Nikki in a writing session together, and then they decided, this might be a midnight song. So we reached out to Nikki and we asked her how her and Tim met.
Hey guys, this is Nikki Flores joining you on After the Midnight podcast. Alright, I met Tim in 2013, writing for other artists, and a couple of years into writing, he played me some tracks that he had started for his own group. Instantly, I fell in love with it and knew that it was something I needed to be a part of. My parents were both in bands in the 80s and both played synthesizers. That's my mom's Juno back there. And I just grew up around that stuff, drum machines and synths, and it filled a space in me that I didn't know was missing anything when I heard it. And I still feel that way to this day every time I get to be a part of a midnight song.
So we also asked her, what is Jason about in your mind, and did anything help influence the lyrics?
Yeah, one of my best friends that I've had for over 20 years, name is Jason, and he kind of fits the description of the character Jason a bit. So I would say it's slightly influenced by him, but really it was just singing the word Jason over those chords and the way that felt, it just felt right. And it completely gave me a clue into what that song was going to be about. It's a story about this guy and just the insatiable longing, looking for satisfaction in all the wrong places and never getting it. Just felt like a really, really cool space to exist in over top of that track.
So it's interesting to hear her take on that versus another piece that we have that we'll play in the episode where Tyler kind of talks about where he pulled inspiration from his end, because as we get into the listen, it's a very back and forth on the vocals. It's very much like they're responding to each other in the song. So it's interesting to hear that she took it more from personal experiences, whereas I know Tyler, and the clip that we'll play, talks more about how he pulled from a lot of 80s imagery. There's a lot of iconic characters from 80s movies and the 90s, when I think of Jason, I think of the Red Power Ranger. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. So it's cool to hear she put a more personal touch on it, while Tyler created more of a story behind it as opposed to pulling from something personal.
Yeah. And since it started with her, you probably heard the name and he was thinking, like you're thinking, the Power Rangers. He was probably thinking, in the 80s, what does this name mean? And it was a popular name in the 80s. A lot of people think this is about Friday the 13th and Jason and that. If you look at the lyrics, you can definitely make it fit in that world.
That's definitely what I thought when I first heard it before, taking a look at the background and before Nikki provided that for us, and before hearing Tyler talk about it, my first thought, just especially with how catchy that chorus is and how it gets stuck in your head, what she's saying there really makes it feel like it's, based on Jason Voorhees and Friday the 13th, which of course is an awesome throwback to the 80s. And I've always loved that being the imagery for me, because those movies take place at a summer camp. They're summer movies, they're always set in the middle of the summer, Camp Crystal Lake, stuff like that. So it's cool that with them both having different takes on how they wrote it, obviously with any other midnight song, you can interpret it 1,000 different ways. So it's awesome when you can do that with a song, that the imagery is so good that you can take it and, however you want.
Also on this song, who we've talked about many times before, is Thomas Ettinger. Super killer sax throughout this song, much like Days of Thunder, just really powerful on top of the track there.
I think of all the midnight songs, when it comes to this one, the hook and the sax are the two things. This is probably the song that gets stuck in my head the most out of any one of their songs. Since we've started this entire podcast week after week, when I come over here, it's in the back of my head somewhere, Jason is there somehow. And I think a lot of it has to do with just the way that the sax rips through the mix, the solo that we get from Thomas too. It's really, really cool to have him be brought back again. We get 2 powerhouse features on this song, and man, it just makes for such a classic. As we've now covered Los Angeles and Sunset, I put this one right up there with those in terms of just popularity, or songs that you want to show somebody who's maybe never heard the band before. This is the perfect one to introduce somebody to the Midnight too, for sure.
For sure. Speaking of which, that's how I was introduced to the Midnight. So the day I discovered the Midnight, it was January 6, 2018. I have a tweet. I say, discovered the Midnight LA last night while reading an M83 thread. This is perfect for me to code to. The Reddit thread was M83, Midnight City. So Mumilane, Mumilane. Shout out to you. He said, if you enjoy synthy music and sax solos, I definitely recommend The Midnight. I love their songs Jason and River of Darkness. I know this comment probably won't be seen by a lot of people, but even if just one person enjoys their music, it would really make my day.
Shout out to you, because without you, you wouldn't know about them, which in turn means I would not know about them, which means we would have no podcast, so that's awesome. So now that we have some background on the song and its origins, we heard from Nikki about, the writing process. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Do want to remind you guys once again that we have the stems for the song. What that means is that we have a track by track broken down version of the song, so we can actually isolate every single instrument. So as we go through it, we'll point out some of our favorite sounds, things we haven't heard before, maybe some things that you guys have never picked up on. So let's take a listen. So yeah, here's the drums.
This is the Spire Soft Pluck.
So this is the bass lead here.
And then just the regular bass.
So once again, here's the saxophone by Mr. Thomas Edinger. introduced the marimba.
This reminds me of the years.
Definitely bringing back some of that Japanese influence, I feel like, a little bit with that sound.
I've known Nikki for some years now, and she's an amazing singer-songwriter. She has put out some stuff and has been signed to various labels throughout the years. But she's been working as a writer for years for other people. She's written for Christina Aguilera. I have a bunch of songs on JoJo's new album. So she's a working writer and works with a ton of people. But she's also, besides being a ridiculously amazing vocalist, in terms of the technical side, like probably easily the best vocalist I've worked with, just in terms of like pitch and skill and being able to run circles around everyone when it comes to ad-libs and stuff like that. And her ear is amazing, but she also has amazing taste. She doesn't overdo it. So she comes from the R&B world. But we've, as I said, written a bunch of stuff together, and she's just awesome. So it was actually just a session between me and Nikki, and we actually started it right when we released the Days of Thunder EP. So it's been sitting there for a while, and I was really in the mode of the midnight back then. This is like the summer of 2014. So we just wrote the first verse, the verse that she's singing on, and the chorus, and obviously the ooh part. And we wrote that just being like, this is what I feel like writing, and can we just do something that feels 80s and cool or whatever? And she was like, sure, I'm down. So that idea was sitting there for a while, and about 6 to 8 months later is when I had her back in, and we were writing something else, and I was like, wait, what about if I had an idea of what about if this becomes a midnight song? And I had Tyler over. This was when we were writing Endless Summer and Vampires, and played it to him, and I was like, could you do a verse on this? We could maybe do it a duet or whatever. He's like, sure, I like it sounds cool. And then he wrote the killer verse, and suddenly it was this crazy, awesome duet. And I said to Nikki, would you be down to feature on it as a midnight song? She's like, fuck yeah. But that time she was a big fan of the midnight too. So she was all down to go from day one. And that's kind of how it came about.
Yeah, it was hard to figure out what that song was about, but then I liked the idea of, the hapless wanderer, this dark, complicated fellow. I had to kind of figure out who Jason was before I wrote my verse, but a year into listening to that song, I prefer Nikki's verse to mine. So yeah, it's just like a fun, weird little song, and I was glad to meet Nikki. She's a very talented songwriter and got a great voice, and it was cool to work with her.
That verse, those lyrics, it's funny you mention it, because me and Nikki when we wrote her verse and the chorus, and I remember coming up with the kind of slightly cheesy chorus idea where it goes, oh, Jason, tell me what you're chasing. I said, I know this is super cheesy, but I kind of like it because it's just a bit over the top. It's leaning into what it is so much. And she's like, no, I dig it. I totally get it. And from my point of view, trying to write, it's that stereotypical archetype 80s leading guy, if that makes sense. Almost
a pastiche.
It's that. It could be a horror movie, it could be a romantic comedy, it could be whatever you want it to be, but it's that dude that can't really commit, but he's handsome, and it's like he's got all the ladies. It's those classic 80s movies that they've become a cliche, but they've become a cliche for a reason. And I kind of wanted to just do something that really felt like that, which is also why I really tried to model the beat around Maniac from Flashdance. And a funny little tidbit about Maniac, that song by Michael Sembello was actually written for the movie Maniac, which is a horror movie, which is why it sounds a little bit creepy and eerie in the verses, and they actually changed the lyrics to fit it in with Flashdance. Not many people know that.
I learned some stuff there. I didn't realize that this was the first song after Days of Thunder released that Tim kind of came in and started writing. I'm sure he maybe wrote other stuff for other people, but that this was really the first Midnight song. They didn't know it at the time. It was just him and Nikki's song, but that's cool.
For him to say with such conviction, like, I was so into the Midnight at that point, it's just so awesome. Like, you know, you pull that back up and it's like, oh yeah, we did this at some point. And just to hear how he compliments Nikki Flores as a singer too, for her to also be a fan of what he's doing too, you know, like they work together professionally, but she's like, hey, this is really awesome, you're doing this on the side. Like, I'd totally love to be a part of it. Like, who knew, you know, back then when they're tracking that stuff out, that it would turn into, you know, such a big iconic song. You know, with that, obviously we've heard from Nikki, we've heard from the guys, we've gone through the song. I think we should hop into the demo version.
Yep. The demo version again is from the ARG that they did in 2020, and we're listening to it on the Midnight Wiki.
See, that's from the Equalizer right there. So this is actually a skeleton of the song The Equalizer with Nikki Flores over the top of it. That's pretty awesome.
He comes alive in metropolis lights when the music's way too loud. Deep in the night, it's easy to hide, and he's got it all figured out. White satellites getting lost in his eyes, but to him she's just another girl. Roll with the tide like the wind in the sky, and he'll only let you down. Jason, tell me what you're chasing, because the night'll never give you what you want. Ooh, Jason, and if you can't escape it, I hope you find whatever you've been looking for. Ooh.
What I think happened is, you know, he really liked this beat the way it was. He changed it more to fit the Jason lyrics later on. You know, he kept molding it, added in the sax. It kind of lost a little bit of that like edginess, but he liked how this had started out. So I think he like went back and was like, I'm gonna remold this into another song. In addition to the other questions we asked Nikki, we also asked her, you know, just what she thought of the Midnight, you know, as a fan, as working with them. And I really love what she has to say here.
I think the Midnight is such a transformative group, and they've really like mastered the art of escapism and taking people somewhere else when they listen to their music. That's what I look for in things I want to listen to at the end of the day or when I'm driving home. I don't really want to be present in music. I want it to take me somewhere. And when I'm lucky enough to write or perform with them, it's the same exact feeling. And I feel like Tim and Tyler have just killed it in this space because they've never strayed from who they are as artists. They just have such a clear vision, and that's rare. It's been an entire education to just watch them carve out this space in synthwave for themselves. It's amazing.
Awesome. Love this song. I'm really thankful for the person that commented on Reddit and showed this to me. It was awesome to hear from Nikki and her background on the song, how it came about, and Tyler and Tim. It's awesome. So yeah, the next song we're gonna do is Synthetic. Looking forward to getting into that one.
As always, we really, really appreciate the love, the support. Appreciate you guys sharing your stories about what these songs mean to you, memories that you have tied to them. If you've had a chance to check out our new series on the channel, Wave React 2. And yeah, man, it's been fun breaking this one down.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you in the next one. Later.
Peace.